So banks, banks and firms, they learned a lot how to create these triangular schemes of sanctions evasion. And I would say that maybe the largest problem with sanctions and the design of sanctions, which like U.S. Office of Foreign Asset Control develops and European Commission, is that, well, actually it's a staggered policy, so that you don't sanction all potentially politically connected firms and banks at the same time. The sanction first, like in March 2014, Bank Russia was sanctioned because it was internationally recognized as Putin wallet. Okay, but that was a clear signal for all other major banks like Sberbank, Gazprom Bank, and others to do something in advance, to sell their foreign asset holdings while prices are favorable, or to maybe borrow as much as they can from Western financial markets, given that these borrowings are cheaper, right? So it was really surprising that like the sanction regime has been already adopted in early 2014, but major banks like these big four national banks, Sberbank and others, they actually increased borrowing from the Western financial markets, increased by a factor of 2. And what's the most non-trivial part here is that foreign investors, they were ready to lend to Russian banks at the same interest rate as year before, 4.4%. So banks are super adaptive, firms are super adaptive, but as we discussed last year at Bundesbank, what they found, they have all the data about German banks. What they found is that actually German banks also helped a lot Russian banks. So for example, before March 2014, Commerzbank or other German banks, they could directly lend to Russian firms and banks. After March 2014, they couldn't. But nobody prevented them from opening their branches in Russia, Commerzbank Russia. And then Commerzbank Germany lends to Commerzbank Russia continues lending to, I don't know, Rosneft, Gazprom, other companies. Again, it's an evasion not only with the help of the eastern part of the world, but with the western part of the world as well. All right, so you probably all know about this huge scandal with Raiffeisen Bank from Austria. Last year, the overall profit of Raiffeisen grew from all over the world. It was 3.8 billion of euros, and 2.2 billion came from Russia, from Russia, which already was in this war regime. So it's very strange, and of course, in this environment, we can think of like the Russian economy could survive 1, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. However, another important notion that I wanted to make is that, well, when the war began, February last year, and these huge, enormous sanctions were introduced against Russia, we economists, we were all trying to evaluate the potential effect of those sanctions, and different organizations and me and my co-authors, we came up with numbers something like -12 to -15% of Russia's GDP decline in 2012, which is nothing compared to this 1 or 2% of GDP decline in 2014-15 after Crimea sanctions. So -12 to -15, but we now all know the official statistics. GDP declined by only 2%. So it's not 15, it's not 12, though all our macroeconomic models, they all show this huge decline. So what happened is that, well, nobody could predict that Central Bank of Russia would introduce the capital control. And now, by the way, you all know that again, Putin signed this a new law to kind of force exporters to sell foreign revenues in Russian domestic market. But we didn't know that. We didn't probably know that Eastern firms and banks would be helping Russian firms and banks to evade sanctions to this great extent. But still, what I want to emphasize is that, and like the Russian, like the Kremlin and politicians, they all try to sell it as their achievement, that look, so big sanctions and GDP declined by only 2%. But come on. Let's just realize that during wartime, one sector of the economy is booming, and this is military sector, because you use a lot of money to construct armaments and kill Ukrainians and Russians actually as well. So with this military defense sector of the economy growing a lot, GDP declines not that much. But if we go to consumption, the private consumption declined by 10%. And it's huge. It has nothing to do with how it was in 2014 and 15. So consumption declined a lot. And we know that also we have research about economic inequality. So these effects, they are not pertaining to Moscow and St. Petersburg, where like everything is growing still, but it pertains to other cities which deteriorate. So I want to emphasize this discrepancy between GDP minus 2% and consumption minus 10%. So during war times, maybe consumption dynamics become more representative of what happens in the economy, not the GDP itself. And we know that last year and this year, all major companies, they paid just historically high dividends. And given that government participate in most of those firms, we know that unfortunately all those big profits, they were used not in productive purposes, not like building new factories, inventing new technologies and so on, but just to create more armaments, killing more people. So given this observation, I don't think that the Russian economy will be feeling well in 2, 3, 4 years, just because all these investment opportunities, they are lost. And now what we discuss about Russia is that, well, you probably all see that ruble now reached 100, like the nominal exchange rate is that ruble reached this level of 100 rubles per US dollar. And that was painful for the Kremlin. And after this event, Kremlin signed this new law that like, exporters have to sell foreign revenues. And ruble, well, rebounded a little bit to 93 rubles, but the rumors are there that it's just before the Putin's elections in 2024, after which the ruble might be just they may allow ruble to go in like free floating. And all our models, macroeconomic models, they show that equilibrium exchange rate should be something between 130 and 150 rubles per dollar, but not 100, right? And why it's painful for Kremlin? Because probably it's the only indicator which just common people can observe every day. What happens with ruble? If ruble kind of deteriorates, so then like people who are supposed to re-elect Putin next year, they might start thinking, well, maybe something is going on not that right. So they spend a lot of like resources now on supporting ruble. And even like what the central bank did today, it has no economic explanation at all. Today, you probably heard that Central Bank of Russia increased yet another time the key regulated interest rate from 13 to 15% by another 2 percentage points. It has nothing to do with theory, because inflation in Russia is still like 6.6%. Given that it's a falsified to a large extent, but still it's not 17% as in the Czech Republic or 25% as in Hungary. Just to give you a few examples, it's still like one-digit number, and raising interest rate, the key interest rate in the economy, is just like shooting in your own leg, because now the businesses they already complain a lot because they have to borrow at increased interest rate, and given that Western financial markets, well, you still can get something there using these triangular sanction evasion schemes, but still, your opportunities are quite tough and risks there are quite large. So even if you find a partner abroad, this partner will put a great markup to help you. So I guess that.
No, just a final question. Yeah, since you mentioned the business side of it, and I think I personally witnessed as well that there's many Russian firms, like all sorts of like maybe in technology, cybersecurity, properties as well. They're sort of like moving away from Russia towards other countries, Middle East or the BRICS partners. So, I mean, as a businessman or as an investor, do you think there are chances for businesses to survive in Russia in the current economic situation?
That's a good question. Of course, I don't have like 100% sure answer to that.
Just like a rough opinion, what do you think about it? Because that's something that I've been asked by as well. So I thought let me just bring that up as well.
Well, we lost many markets, profitable markets, right? Trying to substitute them with China and former USSR republics. But well, it's difficult. It's difficult, and we lose technologies. And as an emerging market economy, we have to catch up using these foreign and Western technologies. We cannot. Well, we still can. You probably all heard about these fantastically strange numbers that, okay, Germany shrank export to Russia by something like 60 to 70%, something like that. But at the same time, increased export to Kyrgyzstan by literally the same numbers, and Kyrgyzstan increased export to Russia by also the same numbers. So it's just a question to regulators. Don't you observe that? So with these super strange observations, of course, Russian companies could still have some opportunities. Well, actually, probably some good opportunities. So they will just have to pay a higher price for developing their businesses, because they have to now, in this example, they will have to pay a markup to Kyrgyzstan, and Kyrgyzstan also has to pay a markup to Germany. So for Russian firms, it's a double markup. And now the question is, what's going to be a more heavier for Russian companies? Whether they have indeed accumulated enough capital buffers over the last years, or this double markup will deplete those capital buffers. So I guess the answer will be dependent on the correspondence on the relationship between these capital buffers and markups that firms have to pay. But, I still think that especially Russian banks, they did a lot of success in terms of fintech over the last years. You probably heard that one of the Russian banks, systemically important bank, led by one of the oligarchs, of course, Oleg Tinkov. He was the most profitable. This was the most profitable bank in the world in 2019. Its applications were fantastic in terms of financial innovations, in terms of just how you do investment, and just like in 2019 and 2020, 2021, the number of active users of broker accounts in Russia increased from 2 million of people to 25 million of people. It was a great success, right, for such underdeveloped country as Russia. So I mean, a lot of technologies were developed before the war. Funny, or I don't know, ironically, that after the sanction regime has been already adopted, but still. So some years, 2, 3, 4 years, the companies may still use these accumulated technologies to survive and adapt somehow. But I don't know, with this strange policy of the Central Bank of Russia, I don't think that it's going to be so. And the Kremlin policy, clearly, we can discuss it a lot. What would be the best strategy of Putin now? I mean, in terms of economics, and we all discussed that probably that would be much more profitable to kind of sign peace agreement, and try to restore financial flows and financial relationships, trade relationships with the West in exchange of repatriation to Ukraine. But it seems that the game went too far for Putin, and here I'm stepping on your field on politics, not mine, so I'll probably stop here. Thank you.